Good evening and welcome back to the Box to Box podcast, your home of all your weekly football news. Gents, how are we this evening?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Let's not fumble around. We'll get straight into it. Last night was the FA Cup third round draw where all the Premier League teams get involved. I'm personally very happy with my team Newcastle's draw. We've gotten Cambridge United at home. I suspect you guys might be a little bit upset with your draws. Jack, Man United away. How are you feeling?
Oh, just beating them. No problem. No problem. Oh, this is the new and improved Manchester United, isn't it? This is the fifth time in about 20 years we've played Manchester United in the third round. I think we've lost every single time. So that's... I would like a cup run. It's a shame when you get like one of the big boys first up, isn't it? Because it's, I feel like our team's probably going to finish mid-table. And the best you could sort of hope for when that is the case is a decent cup run. That's probably not going to be the case now that Manchester United are, in a space of 1 week, all of a sudden the best team in the world. So, yeah, it was frustrating for me, really.
Would you take a draw and then maybe a replay at Villa Park?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd take that without a doubt. I thought there were some other interesting draws, though.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Tottenham have got Morecambe, I think it was. So that could be that's a hell of an away trip for Morecambe because that new stadium looks sensational. How long do we keep calling that stadium new for, by the way?
Probably the next 5 years until there's another new stadium. Then
okay,
as long as it's the newest stadium in the Prem. Jonathan, if I'm right in saying West Brom have drawn Brighton, how are you feeling about that one?
Yeah,
Premier League opposition.
The Albion derby again. It's kind of tough to call Brighton when we face them, especially at the Hawthorns, because the latest results in all competitions have been a bit 50-50 between the two teams. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm definitely getting my ticket for the Albion derby. Hopefully we will get through, but I've just got a feeling that West Bromwich Albion are chasing promotion, so the league is the priority. I mean, we might, give the kids a run out like we did in the Carabao Cup, and we got spanked 6-0 by Arsenal. So, I would love a cup run, but I've just got a feeling that we're prioritising the Championship at the moment because we're chasing promotion.
Yeah, that's usually the case when you're chasing promotion, that the cup competitions get put to the side. You're heavily rotating. Do you think that maybe makes the cup lose some of its magic sometimes when squads are heavily rotated? Maybe some teams aren't taking the cup as seriously as maybe they did in the latter years. But for me, the FA Cup, I mean, as Newcastle fans, we haven't had much enjoyment with it over the last couple of years. Yes, we got to the quarter-finals and got knocked out off Manchester City, but we're usually out in the early stages. So I'm hoping under Eddie Howe, we can maybe push on and
you gave us
get a bit of a cup run.
Year, though. You gave us a good game the other year.
We went what was it? Was it 3-1 ahead and then 4-1, and then you just came back into it later on.
We just fought back. Yeah, I think the final score was actually 3-2, but you were 3-0 up. So yeah.
But there is still a couple of non-league sides in there. Kidderminster, they're at home to Reading. Boreham Wood, they're at home to Wimbledon. Do you think there can maybe be an upset run, Jack? We've seen it happen in years before. Do you think
Chesterfield, Chelsea as well? Don't forget, of course.
Yeah.
Chesterfield are non-league these days, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, I do like it. That's probably the best bit. That's the sort of. I feel like the FA Cup third round, like you were saying, really isn't as interesting as it used to be, because when it is a Premier League team versus Championship team, like you were saying, Jonathan, it's usually just, I somehow don't think West Brom reserves versus Brighton reserves is going to be on the BBC, for example, or anything like that. And so that's a bit of a shame, but it is quite interesting just seeing, I don't know, just the absolute mismatch that will be like Chelsea versus
Chesterfield.
I mean, it was quite interesting last year when Marine got to the fourth round and played Tottenham. That was quite a good story, wasn't it? Eighth tier team playing, Dele Alli and Lucas Moura. That was quite entertaining, interesting. I think it does help when they get the home tie. I think you do sort of feel like, at home, because if Chesterfield did play Chelsea, obviously they still have no chance, but at Stamford Bridge, they really, really have no chance. So, but you never know. Kidderminster could do something against Reading. I mean, they're a bit of in disarray at the minute, aren't they? So you do never know. There's an advert for you.
Yeah, I get what you mean about the away thing. I mean, a couple of years ago, we had to go back down to Oxford because we drew 0-0 with them at St James's Park. And I won't talk about the events that happened in extra time after St Maximin scored. That's probably
that
best.
celebration was quite interesting, wasn't it? On that night, yeah, I seem to remember.
Well,
that.
you beat Oxford to face us, didn't you? So
yeah, we went 2-0 up in that game, and then I said Newcastle would do a very Newcastle-y thing and go and lose the lead in the last 10 minutes, which we did, and then St Maximin. Wonderful solo effort to score in extra time, and again, I won't talk about the celebrations after because that's best left unsaid. But why, Jack? Why do you think the cup has lost its magic? What do you think is to blame?
I was thinking about this earlier. I think it might be because squads are now too big, and because squads are too big, players on lots of money don't like not playing, so you have to play them at some point. And turns out those points are against when other teams also play reserve players. That's my theory on it. And because of that, you sort of don't really see first teams playing in the FA Cup until about the semi-final stage. If you're a Chelsea or a Manchester United, you might start taking it a bit more seriously if you're a Newcastle or a Villa or West Brom earlier. But if you're one of the big teams, you just sort of know that you're gonna, unless something weird happens, you just sort of got a free run to the quarterfinals because their squads are so much better than everyone else's. I mean, if you're Chelsea second team, that is still better than, probably about 75% of the Premier League. So I think that's a problem, that it just has this idea that people don't take it seriously. I think it does get a bit of, people seem to think, what's Arteta done? Just for example, what's Arteta done at Arsenal? It's like, well, he's won the FA Cup. That just doesn't seem to mean as much anymore, does it? It's not a proper trophy, though. He's not won the Champions League or the Premier League. I just think it gets a bit too easily diminished, I think. If that makes sense.
Jonathan, do you think the bigger teams, aka the top six in the Prem, do you think financial incentive is maybe really why the focus on the European competitions now rather than the FA Cup? Yes, at the end of the FA Cup, if you win it, if I'm right, you get qualification into the Europa League. But obviously, these teams, they want to be going for Champions League football, and if that means concentrating solely on the league, like teams have done before, do you think that's maybe to blame as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was going to make a point of there's a certain group of teams that always seem to be in the final. I think there was a few exceptions, like Portsmouth when they won, Wigan when they won the FA Cup as well. I think a few years back we had a final that was Crystal Palace versus Watford, I believe.
Yeah.
So apart from those anomalies, it's always been like a Chelsea versus Man City or Manchester United versus Tottenham. It's always been the same few teams. I mean, last season was Chelsea against Leicester, and we all know what happened there. Leicester won for the first time, and it meant so much to a team like Leicester winning it for the first time. Pretty much, they felt the same way as when they won the Premier League. But to teams like Chelsea, who have won it time and again, it's lost its appeal. And the top teams are gunning for Champions League football more than the FA Cup.
Yes, Jack.
Thank you. I do.
Felt like a teacher there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, sir. Thank you. What's the point going to be? It's going to be something interesting, I'm sure. It's such an easy win for mid-table Premier League teams. It's like teams like your Villas, your West Hams, your Southamptons, these teams that probably aren't going to get Leicester these days probably aren't going to get relegated, probably aren't going to get European football. Well, West Ham probably will, but that sort of ranking from 8th to 14th. And then you see these teams play like their full reserve team against like a championship team, and then they get knocked out. It's like, well, now what? You're just going to be playing for the rest of the season. The best you can do is finish 8th. The worst you can do is finish 14th. Yeah, I find that very frustrating about it. I just feel like it's a wasted opportunity for some people. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm hoping by the end of the month we can pick up a few more points and then Well, Cambridge United is a game we should be winning. Let's be honest. And by a matter of goals, I'd like to see us score 3 or 4 because we haven't done that in a game yet.
You've got
But
tough, you lot, haven't you, coming up now?
yeah, we do. But I think it will make us more of an attractive club if we're sure we can go on a cup run this early on into new ownership. And I mean, I think you'll be keen to have this cup game against Man United. I think had this been Ollie's Man United, I think you'll have probably been maybe odds-on favourite to win the game.
You'd be well up for it.
However, Ralph Ragnick, who's already got them pressing better and looking that little bit better. How do you feel that you're facing a new sort of Man United?
Oh, the new improved Super Manchester United, don't you know? Yeah, they thrashed Crystal Palace 1-0 the other day. They do look better, don't they, United? I mean, that team is very good. That's the thing about Man United, and that's why it is quite frustrating watching them. So, I mean, well, not for a neutral. Neutral's hilarious, but if you're a Man United fan, that's why it would be so frustrating because you've got people sitting on the bench like Donny van der Beek and people like that, So you never really know what you're going to get with them. It looks like this Ranić appointment seems far too sensible, to be honest with you. He seems to really know what he's doing. Apparently Newcastle wanted them, didn't they, at some point I hear. But...
Yeah, I think we looked at first. I mean, the rumours that have went around our club just because we've now got money has been ridiculous. I mean, I think the rumour was that we would do exactly what Manchester United are doing, bring him in the interim basis and then have him go upstairs, which, like you said, isn't a very Manchester United thing for Manchester United to do. They've usually went for the mental choice. We've seen the likes of Van Gaal collapsing on the sideline because he hasn't got it his way. Mourinho, we all know what Mourinho's like. And then, bless him, Ollie, I think we all felt a bit sorry for him in the end. One thing I will mention, though, obviously we know in December the fixture lists get crammed. You're playing not nearly every night, but almost every 3 nights you're playing, and then you come in to the start of January and the FA Cup. I think the games are set to be played over the weekend, beginning the 8th. So you're almost coming out of that busy December period, and there isn't a break at all for the teams in England. Do you think that's to blame as well, Jonathan?
I believe so. Yeah, it all comes down to player fatigue, and hence why the rotation element comes into effect as well. Especially for teams with small squads like, the Championship teams. I mean, Nottingham Forest face Arsenal, and, they haven't really got a particularly squad depth. So they're facing Arsenal. So, yeah, it's for teams like that, it is a bit of a challenge, and the crammed fixture list really doesn't help teams like that at all.
It also doesn't help fans going to these games, does it? Because it's just after Christmas when no one's got any money. It's loads of games that you have to go to. So if you know that your team is going to play a reserve team, then maybe the atmosphere is not going to be as good because you've just had to spend more money watching your team.
Mm.
Yeah, especially, I mean, with the distance some fans have to travel. I mean, I'm very happy that we've gotten the home draw.
Me too.
Because obviously, if we play a team down south, I mean, the good thing is with the FA Cup games, they're midweek games. Where, meanwhile, if you get the Carabao Cup games, you get further in there and you start playing the teams down south. That's you can start traveling some stupid distances to, let's be honest, for the Mickey Mouse Cup. We'll move on because, like I mentioned as well, January is coming around the corner. Meaning the January transfer window is about to open. Clubs are drawing up plans to fight transfer tax proposals. Jack, do you think a tax should be imposed?
I think it's a good idea. I think there needs to be something to stop. Again, it sounds like I'm just beating the same drum here, but these big teams who are just buying players, to stockpile, which I think is a thing. I think if you look at a couple of teams at the top, they buy players specifically to loan them out with never having the intention to actually play them. So I think it would discourage that sort of thing. And I just think it would be good. I think it would level the playing field a bit more because I know something might get onto a bit, of other ways of stopping a bit of disparity is salary caps, and I just think we are too far down the road to stop that sort of thing now. I just think that's just not going to get passed now. So I think something like this, I think is a good idea. I think, I don't think I just think it levels the playing. It's not too dramatic. I don't know what sort of percentage it is that they're talking about, but I mean, if you're spending £100 million on Jack Grealish and you get taxed 10%, it might make you think about that decision a bit more. I think I'm all for it personally.
Is that you still a little bit bitter that Jack Grealish went to City there, Jack? Or,
I don't want to hear it.
No, not at all.
I don't know.
It certainly seems that we are heading the way of more impacts on transfers. I mean, as a Newcastle fan, we were quite upset by the Premier League clubs voting to ban in-house sponsorships.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which has only became a problem when we've getting money, by the way. Nothing was being said when Sports Direct was plastered everywhere around St James's. And by the time we next play at St James's, they're going to be all gone. So that's an amazing thing. And I know a lot of Newcastle fans are very happy about that. Jonathan, how did you feel about the in-house sponsorships being banned? Do you think is it something you agree with?
Absolutely. To be honest, in-house sponsorships, it's like, I know Mike Ashley owns Sports Direct, hence why it was all plastered all over the place. If that had stayed around after he had sold your club, then it would look weird. I mean, no disrespect to St James's Park. It's a brilliant stadium, but it would just look weird having all the Sports Direct logos all over the place without Mike Ashley being in charge. I mean, for us, it's Ideal Boilers. Isn't your mascot a boiler? A boiler, is that still a thing? Boiler, man. That is still a thing, I'm afraid.
Oh, man.
That is absolutely a thing right now. I don't agree with all the in-house sponsorships. Yeah, have the sponsor on the shirt, no problem. But to have the entire stadium plastered with one company's logo is a bit much. You do get tired of it eventually.
Yeah, I think sorry, Jack. I think Newcastle fans. I mean, I certainly have forgetting what the ground looks like without these advertisements everywhere. I mean, the closest we got was when we were in Europa League in 2013. Because Europa League banners and their sponsors are everywhere, and the only other time is when we've hosted the rugby events, because then they would cover up. They would just put like a grey canvas thing over them. But now they're gone, and it's just, I'm so excited. I'm going to the Man United game on the 27th, and I can't tell you, lads, how excited I am to see the ground just not with them on. Even if there's no advertisement boards there, it's just going to look a whole lot better. Sorry, Jack, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I'm looking forward to Derby County being named the House of Fraser Arena. That'd be quite entertaining. I think that'll be a class atmosphere at Man United game. I do think as well, I believe Manchester City has obviously got Etihad plastered all over the place.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that would, if this was going to get banned, I think that might need investigating.
Arsenal as well, the Emirates.
Yeah, Arsenal.
I'm not 100% sure on that, so I would have to do some more research.
It's how these clubs get around the
financial fair play, isn't it?
Financial fair play, yeah. So you just up your sponsorship fee to cancel out the transfers fees you've spent. It's why City can buy Jack Grealish for 100 million, but then also you look at these boys, PSG in the summer. They had Messi, Sergio Ramos, Gini Wijnaldum, Donnarumma, Hakimi. I don't know if I've missed anyone out there. And it's just, do you think there needs to be more sanctions on these clubs to stop these deals from happening? Because I mean, you look at Liga, and it is, this season it has been a one-horse race. I know Lille won the league last year. Do you think more needs to do that to stop these teams from just running away with league titles and make these leagues more competitive?
What's that phrase of bolting after the horse is bolted? What's that one? Locking the door after the horse is already bolted. That one.
Yeah, that's the one.
I think it's very much a case of that, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I think we're past another phrase I can't think of right now. But
that's the point of no return.
That's it.
There you go.
You get a catchphrase, Jonathan.
Yeah. I'm basically Mr. Chips. No, I think we're past that point now. Unfortunately, I do think because these teams just have so much money and they do attract a lot of eyeballs around the world. But because PSG have that much money, the only French league game I would probably consider watching would be involving PSG. That's what you've got to think about. I know we don't like it as Premier League fans that the top six, well, it's more of a top three these days, isn't it? Just have so much more money than everybody else. But I don't really know what you can do about it, if I'm being completely honest. You can't just tell them to stop spending money, even though they've been spending all this money for years.
I think it's funny. I mean, in the terms with Ligue 1, that I would rather than watching PSG, I'd rather watch Marseille versus Lyon. I mean, the derby games are mental. I mean, the last one got called off because Payet got a bottle thrown at his head. I mean, it's something no one wants to see, but that's proper football where the fans are maybe not involved to that extent, but creating atmosphere and buzz around games. And these kind of teams, I mean, City, I mean, I went to uni at City and I went to a few games, and I mean, the atmosphere is it's dire, to be honest. And it's just, I hope where Newcastle come in this super club that we're about to come and everything like that.
Here we go.
We'll keep our atmosphere, and I'm very, very confident of that because we were actually quite a big football club before it came about. While City were a yo-yo club. Let's be honest. Jonathan, what would you like to see, mate, to kind of help these transfers?
Well, I totally agree with the transfer tax. You had the financial fair play, and then, Man City were getting sanctioned left, right, and centre for it. I would like to see where exactly is this tax going to be. I mean, it's not going to be like, your normal council tax that that we have to pay direct to the government. So again, this goes back to like the gap between the top six and the rest of the Premier League and the Championship, League One, League Two. I would like to see that tax not invested back into like the government or anything like that, like normal tax, but just invested back down into like smaller clubs and grassroots football, and funding football academies for future players. That's where I would like to see this transfer tax go, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, there was a big call for medical equipment to be more accessible at grassroots football, and that's maybe something that should just all go to a charity based in the country. But it is a hard thing to sort. Like we said, the amount of money that's in football now, it's kind of really hard to put any sanctions on it because, let's be honest, it is still the biggest sport in the world. That's not an opinion. It's fact. I sound like Rafa Benitez. Facts. I think as long as there's always going to be the interest in football, there's going to be a lot of money. That money spent. I mean, I still blame it on Newcastle because we charged Andy Carroll, Liverpool, 35 million for Andy Carroll. I mean, 50 million was a reasonable fee for Chelsea to pay for Fernando Torres, but I think we kicked off this stupid transfer fee thing, and I swear by it.
Are you saying football's problems are due to Mike Ashley?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's how I felt for the last 12 years anyway. So everyone else may as well feel it as well.
That's what it's all about ball with, definitely.
Right, we'll move on. Wembley. We all saw what happened in the summer. We were obviously all buzzing to get into the final of the Euros. Jack, some maybe too excited, mate. What did you think about the scenes outside of Wembley on their final night?
The report came out this week, didn't it, saying that basically it was lucky that no one was killed that day, and it was basically just people who were drugged up, drunk out their minds. It was all. It's a difficult one, this, because it gets me very, very annoyed, this whole thing, to be honest with you, because I thought the behaviour that day was despicable. It really did tarnish the day for me, to be honest. It was just embarrassing to watch. And then all the reaction afterwards online, obviously, after what happened in the penalty shootout was just awful as well. But that day, it's just it's ruined any chance England have of hosting a tournament in the next 20 years, I would say. again, like the report said, no, it was very lucky something more serious didn't happen. I wasn't there, but it must have been very intimidating for anyone that was there that day. If you've bought your ticket fair and square, you've paid your hard-earned money, and then you see some drugged up to the eyeball, bunch of lads who have just stormed into your seat, that's going to taint your experience somewhat, isn't it? So, I don't know. I think it is quite easy Wembley's a big old place, the whole arena, just around it is very difficult to police the whole thing sometimes. Obviously the Met and the people that organised the security that day have got a lot of flack, and rightfully so. It should have been organised better, but sometimes you just got to look at these people and just this idea that when you go to a football match, you've got to behave like an absolute swear word. I don't get it. I really don't get this idea that you have to go to a football match and get belathered out your mind, and then that's the only way you can have a good time, and you have to have a firecracker up wherever it was, and it's just I don't get it. It really annoys me, and I think they need to do something. They need to ban whoever was on those videos from attending any football matches in this country for at least 5 years, at least.
Well, no, to be honest, mate, I think you should just be banned for life if you're doing stuff like that. I don't believe for 1 second that the people who were doing these were proper football fans either.
No.
I think like a lot of people were just getting carried away with the whole "it's coming home" thing over the summer. Like people that weren't really interested in football were trying to get involved with it. And I mean, it was quite outrageous and disgusting, to be honest. Jonathan, do you think what happened that night, do you think that's ruined the chances of the 2030 bid for the World Cup for the UK and Ireland?
I believe so, and it's a real shame. I think it's Baroness Casey who did this report. She said it was fortunate nobody died during all the trouble. But it's absolutely ridiculous, and I agree with everything Jack just said. It was absolutely ridiculous. It gave England a bad name, both the football team and the country as a whole. And it was like I was that night, to be honest, I was ashamed to be English. It was that bad when I was reading all the stories and all the reaction after the game. Fair enough, I was shouting at the TV when we were missing penalties, but that was a different story. But it's just absolutely ridiculous, and it's a real shame. We've got the stadiums to host the World Cup tomorrow, and it's just a real shame that we might not be considered to host the 2030 World Cup purely on the basis of what happened one night in 2021. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, for what had happened as well, with the tournament being delayed, obviously because of the pandemic, and just seeing that, I remember, because obviously we were watching the game, you didn't really see what was going on until half time when I've checked Twitter and I see all these videos, and I'm just like, you know what, I don't want to win it, because I did want to win it, but it's just, I can't imagine what the scenes would have been like if we had, and these people, I think you can imagine it would probably have been worse. I think the fact that losing these games, the people that were hanging around Wembley Stadium probably went home. And I mean, London's such a big place. There's so many fantastic areas to go and watch the games if you haven't got a ticket. That's why fan zones are set up, for Christ's sake. And these people feel the need to, and I know there was a lot of people there were joining, getting videos and putting them on TikTok, and I feel like that's what a lot of people were going there for, to try and get some clout on social media. And it just, you're not just making yourself look like you're ruining the experience for people that have paid thousands for these tickets as well. Because God, I can't imagine what the resale value would have been like on those tickets. We'll move on. I think we've had quite the rant there. So let's talk about someone else that had a rant quite openly after the Der Klassiker, the biggest game in German football. Borussia Dortmund versus Bayern Munich came to quite the bit of controversy, especially after Jude Bellingham's comments after the game. I'm a massive fan of Jude Bellingham. I think he is the next best thing. I think he's got a massive career ahead of him. maybe should have toned it down on his post-match interview. Jonathan, what did you make of Jude's comments after the game?
Well, I've got to be honest. I never thought I'd see the day I'd agree 100% with a former Blue Nose. But yeah, it's I like I said, I agree with everything. I mean, the Bundesliga, the German FA, this is a referee that has been found guilty of match fixing years and years ago, and yet they still give him possibly the biggest game of German domestic football. Of course, if it didn't go right, then obviously questions were going to be asked. It was just that Jude Bellingham had the, I won't say it, but the never-alls to actually say it outright. But yeah, I believe he's been fined, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been 40,000. Yeah,
40,000 euros for basically telling it what it is, and that's been a problem not just for German football, but for even in the Premier League. You've had Jose Mourinho ranting at a ref and getting fined. It's unfortunately all part of the football experience at the moment. I mean, that Chelsea-Barcelona game in the Champions League years ago, where Chelsea got absolutely, done over, so to speak. And yeah, it's just a shame. I agree. I don't agree with him going to that extent, but I did agree with everything Jude Bellingham said. And like I said, for a Blue Nose, that's surprising for me.
Yeah, you certainly do not mention that game to Didier Drogba, who he certainly let his thoughts known at the end of that game, if I can remember correctly.
Oh, that's hilarious, wasn't it?
Yeah. Was it what was his comments? Is it rigged? It's fixed, something like that. Remember that he's doing this. Like Jonathan mentioned, this guy had been done for match fixing back in 2005. Look, I get that was 16 years ago. But for me, you get caught doing the worst thing possible in football. How are you then allowed to, never mind the biggest game in Germany, how are you allowed to go on and officiate? I don't get that, Jack. What's your thoughts on that this guy's been given a second chance after found guilty of match fixing?
I agree. I believe why he's been given a second chance is because he was actually sort of part of whistleblower on somebody who was doing it much more regularly. I believe. I think he came clean. I think from what I read on Google earlier, but I mean, not that 60. I completely agree. He shouldn't be refereeing certainly the biggest game in Germany. I liked Bellingham's comments. I didn't realise he had such a strong Brummie accent. That surprised me. I don't know why it surprised me. But, he's an incredibly mature young man for his age. I think he's a brilliant prospect and a brilliant player. And I'm sure he'll be back in England sooner or later at one of the big clubs because, everyone needs a good box-to-box central midfielder, don't they? Absolutely. But, he probably
Would you take him given his past with Birmingham?
Would I take Jude Bellingham? Yeah, I think I'd probably take Jude Bellingham. Yeah, he's quite good. He's brilliant. I would. But I feel like he may have crossed the line, like you say. I mean, it's bordering on slander. So, it's kind of implying that he might still be match fixing, really. That's kind of what you could take out of that.
Yeah.
Which you can't really do, I'm afraid. I'm surprised he's avoided a suspension, actually. I don't think it warranted a police investigation, though. But
yeah, I was just about to ask Jonathan that whether what he thought on, because I was out last night and I saw on Sky Sports down the bottom that the police were getting involved. Do you think that's why the Bundesliga's acted so quickly to put not a suspension but fine Jude Bellingham, especially 40k? I mean, I imagine it's less than what he's getting a week, but still, no one likes to just give 40k out, do they? Jonathan, what were your thoughts when you saw the police were getting involved?
No, I've seen the reports about the police investigation, and I was thinking that's a bit much for a comment, isn't it? It's I don't know why the police had to get involved unless there was an official report made to him by the person that he was actually commenting on. To be honest, I'm not sure that has actually happened, so I really don't know why there was a police investigation into it. It's an interview. It's a football interview after a game. Obviously, things have not gone Dortmund's way. And, it's a heat of the moment comment, isn't it? But, yeah, I don't know why the police got involved there.
I mean, like you said, it is a heat of the moment comment. Now, Dortmund are were hot on the tail of Bayern, so it was upsetting for them to lose the game in the first place. And I mean, yes, you can maybe blame the inexperience of Jude Bellingham of only recently dealing with as much press that he is now. I feel looking on the events that happened in the game, I think Bellingham definitely had a right to call out the referee for making poor decisions, maybe not in the manner he did of bringing up his match fixing habits, because that's premeditated, that comment. I think he's known that fact, and that's probably been discussed before a ball's been kicked. But I love the Bundesliga. Apart from that little mistake they've made there, they got rid of the very about the fans. Obviously, they have the 50+1 rule that we've spoken about previously on this podcast, which we also mentioned how they cancelled the Monday Night Football because the fans didn't want it. And I think the German model of football is very good. And one thing that was controversial again about the game after they had the referee on to explain his decisions. Jack, is that something you would like to see be involved in the English coverage of football, having referees come on, not just an ex-referee to explain decisions that were getting made in the game, the actual official to come on and explain his decision?
Yes, very much so. I don't really know why they don't, to be honest with you. I don't know if they've just maybe had a union one day to sort of, come out and refuse to do it one time. I don't really know what the downside of that decision would be, because then it just makes everything so much clearer, doesn't it? I don't know how often they do it in Germany, but I think the English League could take a lot of things from Germany, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's a very well run, and I nearly said efficient then to describe the Germans, but it's a very well run league, and there are something, fan ownership and the fan power is certainly a good thing. I don't see what the downside of it is, to be honest. And while we're on ranting about things in English football, just quickly, can we get rid of 8:15 kickoffs on a weeknight?
It's about Amazon, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
I don't quite get that, because they have a 7:30 kickoff and then a 8:15 one. So it's like you get to half time of the 7:30 game, the 8:15 one comes on, and then you get 15 minutes of that. And is it to make you go, do I want to stick with this game, or do I want to go back to? I mean, because had it been Steve Bruce's Newcastle United, we played. It was Norwich. We midweek we were the 7:30 kickoff, and I think maybe had it been Steve Bruce's Newcastle United, I might have gotten to the 8:15 and thought maybe we'll just leave this on. Yeah,
in the Championship, we always seem to have 8 o'clock.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
that's to do with Sky's coverage again, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
With the Sky Sports football, the football channel. No, I think you're quite right to bring that up, Jack. That's because of the growing broadcasters in the Premier League now. It used to just be Sky, then it was Sky and Setanta Sports, Sky and ESPN, now Sky and BT, and now it's Sky, BT, and when we get to this festive period, Amazon get involved as well. I do like Amazon's coverage of the games, it has to be said. I think it's great that you tend to get a lot more. The pundits are actually from one of the clubs. I know Sir Les Ferdinand was on for our Norwich game. I could see him from where I was sat in the ground. But I do like Amazon's coverage. Do you think that it's a good thing that there are more broadcasters getting involved in the Premier League, or would you like it to see being cut back down? Jonathan,
please.
sorry.
Yeah. I'm not really one to say about the Premier League coverage, but the EFL coverage from the Championship, Sky Sports, they've got total control of the EFL. You don't see any Championship games on Amazon or BT Sport. So for the Championship, that's a good thing, because you know exactly what channel the game is going to be on. The Premier League, and I've done this before. You might be switching on to, for argument's sake, BT Sport, and then realizing that the game's on Sky. I've done that plenty of times before, and it's like, well, make up your mind, because I know for a fact when we was in the Premier League last season, we had an Everton game on BT Sport, and then a Chelsea game on Sky. And it was like, well, make up your mind. We're not made of money. All these are, monthly subscriptions and Sky bills and everything like that. So yeah, it's going to be. It's hard for people who can't afford it. I mean, there's still some people I know that don't even have Sky or BT. They've just got BBC. So all they can watch is the FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and the England games. So yeah, it's all to do with money, really. How many broadcasters there are.
Yeah, I think the good thing about the Championship as well, you're not really subject to fixture changes as well for TV. It's not that often. I mean, I think the last time we were in the Championship, when we had promotion secured, I think we were maybe as exposed to a couple then, just because people wanted to see I think that's when the changes start to come around, because you want to see the teams that are coming up to the Premier League. And I mean, at the end of the day, and when it comes to broadcasters, all that matters is the Premier League, because that's where the money's at, really, at the end of the day. So while we're on the Premier League, we'll move on. Jack, your mind's probably running crazy still after Jacob Ramsey's goal was disallowed against Leicester after Kasper Schmeichel has put his hand out. Just got his hand to the ball, do you think? Or do you think there was enough on it to grant the goal being disallowed?
Well, first of all, I just hope his X-ray went okay on his hand that he was on about. That looked nasty, I have to say. No, it was absolutely fine. I don't know what was wrong with it. I don't know why it got disallowed. I was under this impression, because I knew it wasn't two hands. I don't think that's been a thing for a while. I thought it was the goalkeeper needs to have full control of the ball. That's what I thought it was, and he had his hand on that ball for less than half a second. Would you say?
Yeah, with how it was outstretched as well. Is, you can't have total grip on a ball like that. Look, I know these goalkeepers have massive hands and massive gloves. There was no way he had full total control of that ball with how outstretched his hand was.
No, and he definitely rolled around in pain with his hand, knowing that would get checked and that he felt like he would kick his hand. And then Match of the Day 2, I don't know if you saw this, tried explaining this incident and what the rule is. And it's something like if you make a save and then you can hold it in between your hand and the floor. Basically, it was incredibly vague, this rule. So no one really knew. Like even Susie Dent on Countdown couldn't have figured out like the sentence and the commas. And, there was just nothing to really help anybody in this situation. I was just sort of like, my jaw was sort of on the floor when it actually got disallowed. I thought, what? Really, really baffled me. And then Schmeichel's comments afterwards, it's a foul, Yeah.
I think when you start to hear pundits go over controversial decisions like this one, you notice how really flawed the laws of football are in this country. Jonathan, I know you're a rival fan. What did you make of the decision for the goal to be ruled out?
To be honest, it should have been a goal. I don't know why I keep agreeing with rival players and rival fans, but it was definitely a goal. For me, Schmeichel didn't have total control of the ball. This rule about it, you can have it between the hand and the floor. Have it between the hand and the floor. Well, why doesn't every goalkeeper do that? To be honest, there was an instance a couple of years ago, Albion against Stoke, where Ben Foster, who was playing for us at the time, had both his hands on the ball, and he had the ball kicked out of his hands, and Stoke scored, and it was allowed. So watching the Schmeichel incident took me back to then, and it's like, well, why is it one rule for one keeper, one rule for the other? To be honest, I reckon Premier League goalkeepers get a little bit too much protection.
Yeah.
Saying that, the De Gea one where he was on the floor against Arsenal, that was
100% the right call.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fred's injured him.
It was Fred who stamped on his foot, weirdly enough.
Poor Fred.
But yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. But apart from the whole De Gea Arsenal incident, yeah, I reckon keepers do get too much protection. We had a goal disallowed first game of the season against Bournemouth. Legitimate goal. The game ended 2-2, so we would have won that 3-2. And it was like a small push on the keeper, from his own defender, and we had a goal disallowed. And it's like, yeah, keepers get too much protection right now.
Yeah, I mean, our goal caused a little bit of controversy. I mean, I'm biased, but it was a goal. It's Nick Pope's fault for why the ball came out of his control. I don't know if you've seen it. Nick Pope's got the ball, tried to parry it down whilst jumping over Shaw as well. He could have injured Fabian Shaw, let's be honest, and then has dropped the ball off the back of Shaw's head, and Callum Wilson's picked it up and put the ball away quite tidily. To be honest, it was a great finish. Jack, what did you make of it when you saw that? Did you think it was a goal? Did you think maybe Shaw should have changed? Yeah, the Callum Wilson one.
Yeah, that's a perfectly good goal. I don't know why everyone was even talking about it. To be honest, without wishing to sound like Kasper Schmeichel, I don't even know why it's a conversation. To be honest, Nick Pope's come out, sort of got near it, then dropped it, which was his own fault because he's clattered into a Newcastle player. And really good finish though, Wilson. The fact that he picked that up and just had a quick glance and finished it over Chris Wood was very impressive. I think the other thing is the fact that we're still discussing this now and we still have no idea why. It kind of suggests it wasn't a clear and obvious error from the ref to give that goal.
Yep. Well, again, it's VAR, isn't it? At the end of the day, and I mean,
sorry to interrupt. Also, Villa. They played. I don't think they usually do this. They played the incident of VAR, why it was disallowed, on the big screen.
Yeah, I'm sure that got banned this season.
I feel like they definitely did that on purpose to get the crowd up.
Yeah, that's why they stopped. That's why they stopped it with the fans coming back in. It was to maybe stop fans from getting riled up while decisions are being made. And I think one thing that could help, especially for the viewers at home, to understand why these VAR decisions are maybe taking so long and maybe why the decisions are being made, is to hear the conversations that's going on between the referee and the VAR official. I think that's what needs to be done. It's done in the likes of rugby. Formula One, you hear the teams chatting away to the FIA. I don't understand why it can't be a thing in football. Jonathan, do you agree? Is that something you would like to see?
Yeah, and going back on the whole, refereeing explaining their decisions back from the Bundesliga, extend that to the VAR officials as well, why they give certain decisions. I mean, like you mentioned Formula One. From a spectator's point of view, it's awesome seeing Mercedes and Red Bull, having conversations and making deals with race directors. Quoting last Sunday, but yeah, it's it should be like, if you're not going to have like live mics for the officials, then go back to the whole the officials and extend that to the VAR people as well. Stockley Park, get them to explain after the game why they made that particular decision.
Yeah, I'm sick of just when it's the former officials. What was there was a decision we had. Oh, it was the Callum Wilson. We should have had a penalty against Arsenal. It was a stone wall penalty. I thought personally, obviously biased again, but I'm forgetting who the referee was that had in
Peter Walton.
Peter Walton. Yeah. Of course, who says it's not as he says. First, in his opinion, it's not penalty, and then gets asked, had that goal, had it went to VAR, that in VAR given it wouldn't have been overruled, and that he would have thought it was a penalty if it went to VAR. And I'm just like, well, where's the line drawn between a referee's perspective and VAR? We're going off on one about VAR, but Jack, do you think because of with the way VAR is now implemented, do you think officials have lost a lot of confidence to make on-pitch decisions and that they overly rely on VAR?
First of all, Peter Walton needs to go away forever.
Yeah, he
Second
does.
of all, yes. Yes, I do. I think we're becoming too reliant on VAR now, and I think we're getting towards the point now where we just might as well not have a referee on the pitch, to be honest, other than to decide which way a throw-in goes. Really, that's about the only thing the linesmen do. And I do think it's definitely becoming a thing. It's just slowing the game down as well. I do think it's getting there, VAR. I think it is being a bit quicker now. But yeah, I mean, there was a couple of odd ones at Everton last night as well.
Yeah, Richarlison.
Yeah, that was tight. I thought they would stop doing those things, but apparently not. Again, so yeah, I do think they are becoming too reliant on it. But again, just sort of got to.
You mentioned the ones that were too tight, Jack. I'm still a little bit sour about the Callum Wilson one against Hughes at the start of the season, where they show the line.
You should have had
the lines. Well, the penalty, and then the lines should have are supposedly thinner this season. They're not, and I mean, I don't know if you've seen the line from the Everton one last night. It's not a straight line. It's like curved. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But then also where they're stopping it, because the way the camera is, because it's stopped between frames, like the player's foot can seem a lot larger than what it actually is. And I mean, that was the case with Callum Wilson's against Villa, because he looked like he had size 16 football boots on that made him look offside. And I mean, I think those ones, they do really need to start putting it in the benefit of the striker, for the benefit of the game, to make things entertaining. Because I mean, just like these VAR, because it can knack a team's mood as well. Like, you think you've gone 1-0 up, or you've came back into the game, celebrated, and then next thing you know, it's your goal's gone because you're off by the size of a hair. It's just annoying, really, isn't it? Especially for the fans in the stands as well. Sorry. I needed to get that off the chest. That's been in there for a while.
Feel better.
I do actually. It was quite therapeutic. But we'll move on. Well, Chelsea women won the delayed FA Women's Cup final to complete their domestic treble in front of 40k at Wembley. And what I find amazing is now the women's football FA Cup final being hosted at Wembley 100 years after women's football was banned in this country. It's just it's not the perfect story, Jack, is it? But it's more, well, probably less than what the women's game deserves after how it was stopped. God knows how big the women's game might have been at this point had there not been the bans. I mean, they were getting sellout crowds. They were doing better in the men's in some aspects. And how good is it for the women's game to see such large crowds getting in at the country's biggest venue?
I thought they did the whole thing very well, actually. It looked like a really good day out for everyone involved, apart from if you're an Arsenal player. But no, I think that it was a good idea to host. I think it's the 50th FA Cup final as well. Was it the Women's FA Cup final? I think I saw. So yeah, it was done very well, and I think the women's game is definitely great. And it does help that it's on terrestrial TV. Some of it that definitely helps. I think we were discussing this earlier about the subscriptions and stuff. So that helped massively. England women seem to have done pretty well in World Cups recently. They're beating teams 20-0. Which sort of brings up its own problems, but maybe we'll get into that another time.
Yeah, we spoke about that last week in this podcast. That's not a good thing. But anyway, I think it's really good. I think it's really growing, and I think it helps that there's lots of female pundits on TV as well. I think Emma Hayes and Alex Scott are probably two of the better ones on telly, to be honest.
Alex Scott's a fantastic pundit. I will happily listen to Alex Scott talk all day. I think she's a lot better than when you see the likes of Michael Owen and stuff coming on. They're wasting TV time, to be honest. They're wasting these the fantastic women pundits that could be on speaking about the football. And then you've got dither idiots like Michael Owen, who, let's be honest, no one wants to listen to.
That's the Newcastle fan again.
Again, that's the Newcastle fan that is coming out. Sorry,
Sports has got Bianca Westwood as well. So
yeah. No, but let's talk about the actual women's game. It is, like you mentioned, I think the international break can do a lot of good for the women's game. You see a lot of it's getting promoted. And they have they have a weekend full of it, don't they, where it's like promoted. I'm sure I need to learn more about it, certainly, and I would be happy to. I'm very much behind the growth of the women's game. Jonathan, how good is it to see the promotion that the women's game's finally getting in this country?
Oh, it's great. I mean, the WSL is growing from strength to strength every week. I remember a few months ago that there was a big promotion on Sky about Manchester United women versus Birmingham women. Obviously, being a local Birmingham lad, I was rooting for Birmingham, but they lost. But yeah, it's like that was an example of a lot of promotion going into the women's game now, which 100 years ago you wouldn't have thought possible. But yeah, it's the WSL is going from strength to strength, and I've found myself watching a bit of women's FA Cup as well. So that's I watch that just as much as I watch the men's game now. So that it's all it's all like exposure and everything like that for the women's game, which is 100% great for the women's game.
Yeah, I love catching the Lionesses as well when I can. I think the game seems purer when the women's play it as well. There's no diving, there's no simulation. It's just, I think at times it is more enjoyable than the men's. I mean, like you mentioned before, Kasper Schmeichel rolling around because he's had a ball kicked from underneath his hand. It makes it, it's just pathetic, really. And I mean, I've really enjoyed the last Women's World Cup and watching how well they did there. And it's just, I think once more people click on and go, oh, hang on, this is decent, this is good. I think it will just blow up. I think it does seem like it's getting to the point where it's nearly at the fuse is nearly there at the end and the women's football is going to blow up. I mean, especially when you see how big it is across other countries and you like to Spain with the Barcelona women's and PSG women's, who maybe we shouldn't probably talk about at the minute after recent events at that club. But again, it's just a matter of time. And I think it is just people need to click on and see that this is good, and probably it is the way the future of football is going to be. So last night, Everton fans clearly aren't happy at the minute. Revolution isn't going the way they maybe thought it would. And they haven't been very happy with the way their football club's been ran. Jack, what's your opinions at the minute of Everton Football Club?
Goodness me, how long we got? I have a real problem with Everton Football Club at the minute. I like Everton, and I grew up competing with Everton for 5th or 6th place in the Premier League. And I think it's very sad what's happened to them in a minute. I've never seen anybody set £500 million on fire as quickly as Everton.
Yeah.
They've just got this completely imbalanced squad. I mean, it doesn't help their best. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's a really good centre forward. Him being out doesn't help. Decore's been out. That doesn't help either. But all of a sudden, their best player is Damari Gray. How's that happened? I mean, any team that spends £35 million on Alex Iwobi deserves exactly what they get. And this whole 27-minute walkout was really weird. Like, no one really did it. No one really knew what was going on. No one knew why it was happening. I think, and I've had a bit of stick from this in the group chat. I think Everton might go down this season. I think they're a mess. They are a mess.
They are.
The director of football's left. I just don't think the squad's very good at the minute. Certainly not what it should be. I think, if Richarlison gets injured as well, I think they're in big trouble, Everton.
Big trouble, yeah.
I think it'll be interesting to see what they do in January, especially now Rafa has control of transfers. And to be honest, I've been jealous from moment one that Everton got Rafa, because with Everton, Rafa's getting everything. Well, now he's in control of transfers as well. Rafa's getting everything that he wanted at Newcastle United. With a great academy that he can help improve, but there's already great foundations there. Newcastle didn't have that. And now he's got control of transfers as well. And I don't know how much of a budget Everton will have in January. Obviously, with they could only bring the couple of free transfers in the summer due to financial fair play. It'll be interesting to see what they do in January. And if Rafa's still there, to be honest, yeah, Jonathan, I'll ask you this. Do you think Rafa will still be at Everton in January?
I reckon they will be. I mean, the 2-1 win was a huge boost last night. But yeah, I reckon he'll still be there. He's got enough of experience to deal with situations like this. As you said, he's got complete control of the transfers. So sky's the limit really for Everton. But I do agree with the whole financial thing. How can they spend that much money and not get much of a return? I mean, they're planning to build a new stadium, are they? Or it's already
Yeah,
been
well,
built?
that's in development. I think Everton's main problem is, yes, they've been a buying club, but they've also been a very big selling club over the last few years. When you look at what they sold Lukaku when he was their best player, it seems like they always get someone that builds up, like maybe Darwin and Calvert-Lewin. I know they spent 50 million on Richarlison, but if they say someone puts 80 million in for Calvert-Lewin, can I see Everton keeping him? No, of course. Well, they'll have to snatch hands off at the minute if they're building a new stadium. And Richarlison, if they got anywhere over his value at the minute, I mean, he's good, but is he a 50 million pound player? No.
He's a corner to Everton, because that's what.
Yeah, exactly.
Considering his international reputation now as England #1, I'm surprised no one snapped up Jordan Pickford. But that might be in part to how well,
I don't think he is England #1. Mind now, I think he's certainly this season he's played himself out of that position. And Aaron Ramsdale,
when he was England #1, how no one snapped him up in a transfer window. Everton did well there, to be honest, just to keep him. But yeah, he has slipped a little bit. I mean, we've got our own goalkeeper in the England setup now, Sam Johnston. So,
it's like, what do Everton want? What are their realistic expectations?
Yeah, what their goals? Yeah. I think this season, anywhere mid-table, I would take, especially if you seem like they're in a development phase. If you've got what I mean, Jonathan. I think on the Pickford thing, I think the reason why no one would come in for him is because, yes, he can perform for England, but he's unreliable at club level. And also, Everton paid £30 million, I believe, we're including add-ons to Sunderland for Jordan Pickford. So I think a price tag on Jordan Pickford would very much put any club off. Especially when how important your goalkeeper is. You need someone that's going to be reliable, and if you pay 30 million for someone, you're going to want at least 40 back for them by the time you've spent wages on them as well. So I think Pickford's price tag would probably put anyone off. But leading on from the walkout that Everton had, I mean, people were meant to get involved. I don't know if many did. And I know from personal experience with how hard our fans pushed for our takeover to go through. Do you think there is sort of a sense of fans in England are starting to get power back to them, Jack? Do you believe that, or
not really? I think it's difficult to get everybody on side, isn't it? And there was a lot of talk of this walkout on the 27th minute, which would have actually been longer than most of those fans stayed against Liverpool the previous week, actually. But it's very divisive, isn't it? Because even sometimes, some fans boo people off and some fans don't. It's difficult to get everybody on. I mean, obviously at Newcastle it's different because everybody hates Steve. Everyone hates Steve Bruce. Everyone hated Mike Ashley, but people still went.
Well, we're not allowed to say that we hate Steve Bruce because he was a nice man. Apparently,
well, he wasn't.
We're not allowed to say that, man. We're not
very nice man, very kind to animals and all that. Yeah, but it's just I don't know. It's difficult. I mean, having said that, fan power did kind of abort this Super League thing, didn't it?
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Do you think the Super League? I somewhat think it was maybe good for English football because I think it's made these billionaire owners and clubs realize, oh, hang on, it made them listen to the fans, and I think that might have been a good thing. Yes, of course, I wish it was never a thing that ever got talked about. But I think in some sense it did have its benefits. Would you agree with that? Or
yes,
yeah, I would 100% agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think it was it the Chelsea fans that were out protesting? I think when it got cancelled, I think Petr Cech got an absolute mouthful, didn't he? He came out and tried to give it back. God knows what he was doing. I don't know if he picked a short straw in the office to be the one that got sent out. But it's just to remember that absolutely.
Go on, you have a word, Peter. You have a word.
Yeah. I remember. I don't know if you know them. Thugden and Thugdad were there. And I just remember seeing Thugdad giving the big one when the announcement came out that they cancelled it, and it was, I think, everyone kind of just went when everyone saw the club started dropping out one by one. They were like,
"It'll come again. It'll come again." It will.
I don't doubt it. I think like we mentioned the point before with the transfers, I think as long as the money's there in football, these billionaire owners are going to look to get more money anyway they can. Do you think there are better ways to protest? I mean, like you said, Jack, I don't think many fans knew it was happening. Do you think there are better ways to go about it?
You need everyone on the same page. And really, in the grand scheme of things, are Everton that bad? Like, they've spent, what are they protesting about? Is it the fact they're not spending enough money? Or is it the fact that they've spent the money incredibly badly? Because it can't be the first one, because they spent loads of money. So what are they winning?
I think it might be a mix of both, and I think they certainly weren't happy when the club brought in Rafa as a former Red, a guy that won them the Champions League. And I mean, it was similar scenes at Chelsea when Chelsea brought him in. The poor bloke was subjected to fat Spanish waiter chants from the Chelsea fans, and that couldn't have been nice. I mean, Rafa's a great bloke. I love Rafa, but
it seems to have worked. Like Blackpool and Charlton, they did some quite creative things, didn't they? Like getting matches cancelled and all that. Do you remember when Manchester United got that game against Liverpool cancelled?
Yeah, because the fans stopped the ground.
I swear that's just been like completely swept and like Man United.
There's been arrests made recently. They've started. They've started making arrests for the people that. I think not necessarily the ones that all of them that stormed in, but the ones that acted violently. I think while they were. Like
the actual club of Manchester United, considering they got a big international game called off due to the fact their security couldn't handle all these people, sort of got away with that a little bit. I feel like if that was like a Crystal Palace or something, or Everton, I feel like that wouldn't have gone down so well with everybody. Maybe that's just a conspiracy.
No, the club would be fined, wouldn't they?
You got a fine, but like, what's a fine to Manchester United?
Yeah,
that's what I mean. But a club like Palace or Watford or anyone like that, fine would probably be devastating for them.
I think they're very clever at sweeping things under the carpet. The Glazers, I think.
Yes.
Well, you look at the protests that were happening last season. Though, here's Ronaldo. Then, as soon as it started to get to the height of things with Ollie and Ed Woodward, here's Rangnick, and suddenly things died down again.
Yeah, they've been protesting for 16 years and nothing's happened there at all, has it?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, as long as they're making money from the club, I know they've dragged that club into God knows how much debt. And I mean, it is always sad that fans leave the club they've supported their whole life because of the club's owners. I mean, I know Newcastle fans probably have over the last few years of Ashley's reign. I mean, United fans even went as far as making FC United of Manchester because of the way that football club was going. Jonathan, how do you see? I mean, I don't mean to make this a rude point. As a fan of a championship club, when you see these Premier League clubs as big as Manchester United protesting the way they are?
Yeah, well, ironically, some of our guys are planning a protest before the Reading game on Saturday because the way we feel, there's been absolutely no investment in the team since the owner took charge. And, while he's been in charge of the club, we've had 2 relegations and, nothing to show for it, just a bunch of loan signings.
Yeah, bought and then sold your best player as well.
And then we sold our best player, yeah. So, yeah, it's...
Who was your best player?
What's that, sorry?
Who was your best player?
It was Jay Rodriguez, wasn't it?
I would have said Matheus Pereira.
Pereira, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was quite good.
Preferred Pereira to Saudi Arabia. And obviously, we wanted to keep Dwight Gale.
Honestly, I would pedal him back myself.
You know what? Your guys wanted to give him to us, but our owner was like, no. Don't know why, but he did bits for us in the championship the other season.
He's a championship striker, man. That's right.
Yeah,
But, exactly what he is. Yeah.
But yeah, with all these protests at Manchester United, it's just become a daily thing that the Glazers are used to it, aren't they? They had protests with the Super League. They've had protests with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It's just become a regular occurrence that they're like, oh God, another one.
It's mad that, I mean, I don't know if this may be ignorant, but you don't really hear much about the Real Madrid or the Barcelona fans or the Juventus fans protesting against the Super League hearings, even though their club presidents, I mean, the Juventus one seems very adamant that it's still gonna happen. Do you think it's very much an English thing? Do you think because it is our biggest and main sport, do you think we are very protective of the sport, and that's why we've cared more when the Super League talks have came about, Jack?
Germany do it. Germany
Germany are very passionate football.
The Bayern Munich supporters thing recently, where they started protesting about the Qatari investment into the club and how they just were absolutely adamant they did not want anything to do with Qatar whatsoever. And like this bloke was on the stand talking about it, and all the fans were like heckling him the entire time. That's great, that sort of thing. And then they obviously, like you said earlier, they protest against Monday Night Football, they protest against the high ticket prices.
I love German football. It is brilliant. It is very much because of we've talked about this on a podcast a few weeks ago about the 50+1 rule. I would love it for it to become a thing in the Premier League, and that's me being a Newcastle fan who's just became the richest club in the world. I would love for fans to have more control over the game, because the German football, I don't know what it is. I sometimes enjoy watching it more than the Premier League. It seems more evenly competitive. Don't know. I was meant to. It's a sour subject. I was meant to.
Yeah, it's really good.
Last May was meant to fly to Dusseldorf, then down to Dortmund to watch Dortmund versus Mainz. But COVID hits. Hopefully getting that reorganised. I'm dying to. I don't want to be in the yellow wall. I want to sit opposite and watch, because I think me as a fan of that club, I don't deserve to be in that. Someone who supports that club should have that seat, be in the middle of it and be amongst it. I wouldn't want to be a tourist at a game. I would very much want to get into it. I mean, I'm very passionate. My Spanish clubs, Valencia, love them. Dying to get away to. I've been on a stadium tour of the Mestalla, but I'm dying to get over there, go to a game. But yeah, you just see. I think. I mean, only recently, because we've got our club back, our atmosphere has been. I'm biased, but it is the best in the league. I'm not going to argue with you, because I know I'm right.
No comment.
But it is. I think it's because we've got this sense of communication with the owners. We feel like very much we're part of our football club, and I think that's why our atmosphere has got as good as it is again. Do you think that's what English football needs? Fans to have more control of the game, for atmospheres to pick up again? Because I mean, you go to the likes of Arsenal and the Etihad, and it's like a library for the home support.
Yeah, I believe so.
To any Arsenal or Man City fans that might happen to be watching this.
Who else is going to?
I know Bernard's probably at home.
He's turned off by now. Yes, we do. Big question. Yes, we absolutely do. And none of this fake nonsense. Hey, if you buy enough NFTs, then you can really have an impact in what your club does.
Christ, yeah.
Have some sort of,
got that now.
Do you know what? Villa actually do this. They have like Christian Purslow, the chief exec, has like a monthly meeting with fan groups and stuff, which I think is quite a good idea. I think that's good. Something like that, even just something as little as that, makes fans think they've got a bit more control. When in reality, we sort of know they don't.
I mean, I can go on about Murdad and Amanda Staveley all day, because I think they're fantastic. The way they've started things, they've got the club getting back in touch with legends that have played for the club. I know Mick Quinn was saying the other day that the club had been in touch with him and getting him back to the ground. And I think they are going to start looking at making these guys like ambassadors for the clubs, like your Kevin Keegans, your Shearers. And it's fantastic for us to see, because it does feel like a community again, rather than just this. Well, it was just a dross under Mike Ashley, to be honest, lads. It was it wasn't enjoyable at all. And talking of owners and directors, sorry to cut you off there, Jack. Did we all see the Leeds director after the game the other day? Giving it the absolute bigging. What was going on there, Jonathan? What's your touch on that, mate?
To be honest, I have no idea what exactly happened, but to me, it seemed like he was passionate about the club he owns, and it just all came out in one big, what's the word?
Fury,
yeah. I believe it was just down to his passion for Leeds United, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it is good seeing the directors get get involved with the club. I mean, I'm loving ours. Like I said, it may be not always great when they start maybe threatening and telling fans to shut up. But do it, Jack? Do we mention the most notorious football club owner ever? Do we do Delia Smith? Do we mention it? Do we dare?
Oh, do you think she's woke up yet? She must have been freezing that night as well. She must be getting close to like her 70s now, Delia. And she's up there in the Newcastle freezing cold at a 8:15 kickoff. Bless her. She must have been freezing. That Leeds thing was weird. He's got a history of that, hasn't he? This director of football, apparently. He's got, I think it's sorry, I hate to be that guy. I hate to be that killjoy. It's a bit tin pot, isn't it? Sorry. Your director of football offering out a fan. It's a bit weird. You know, it's kind of like attention. It's quite attention seeking, if you ask me. I mean, I live in Leeds, so I've sort of got agenda against Leeds, to be honest with you. So they're another team I think could go down, actually.
Leeds, do you think?
I do.
Do you think?
I think it depends how long Calvin Phillips is out for now, because he's just got injured again, hasn't he? So,
Bamford's just came back, though. I think that's what they needed desperately. I think under Bielsa, I mean, Bielsa's contract's out at the end of the year, isn't it? But I think they'll be all right. I think they're a tough side, and I think they can play themselves away from relegation. And I made this point on our podcast, the Behind the Lasers podcast on Sunday night, that I think we've started picking up as quite a few clubs that are around the relegation zone their seasons have started like depleting more and more. And I mean, your Watfords, yes, to put up a good fight against Chelsea, but couldn't see a draw out. I think they're starting to look robier. Obviously, we beat Burnley, Norwich. I think they've been above us once. It's not gonna happen again. They look. I mean, Jack, we'll talk about it because you're a Villa fan. Were you surprised when Dean Smith got another job so quickly?
Oh, I think we discussed this, didn't we, Jonathan? I was
we did.
I was sort of quite upset about it. It was kind of like, you and your ex-girlfriend after 3 years, and like she rebounds so quickly, and it's just like watching your ex just at another club, and like, oh, we've won, brilliant, but what did Norwich do? Did Dean win? You know, it's just So I was pleased for him. I wouldn't have taken that job. I don't think. I think it's a mountain to climb. I just don't think that squad's good enough.
I think there's a good few individual players, but I think any squad that their main centre half is Grant Hanley, they are destined for the championship. And it's what
this is for a man with your defence as well, with Kieran Clark and co.
Yes. Well, thank God you got that red card. To be honest, mate, it was. Fede Fernandez, we were all fuming because Fede Fernandez is our best. Well, he's our best defensive centre half at the club. So we were all surprised why he'd been left out for so long, and especially Kieran Clark, who's shown that his championship standard really wasn't. He was captain. He was captain of your side, I think, when we signed him, but he's just not good enough. I think he probably will end up. It was a great signing when we signed him for the championship, but not at this level now.
I mean, going back to Norwich, the only player I really know about is Teemu Pukki. So,
but they've got Billy Gilmore on loan from Chelsea. Brandon Williams as well, who's a promising fullback from Man United. Max Aarons, fantastic fullback who a lot of Premier League sides are still interested in, and big teams from abroad, I think, are still interested in.
The signing of Jamal Lewis at Newcastle might put teams off Max Aarons because Jamal Lewis has been so terrible for Newcastle.
Well, you say that, but he's came in the last couple of games. He's been fantastic. We've been calling for. I think Matt Ritchie's hit a point now where he started to lose his pace, and he's a right midfielder. We're signing him as a right midfielder. He's not a left wing back, and funny enough, Jamal Lewis is, and we've put him in there, and he's put in a good shift because that's his actual position, isn't it? But as well, Tazolis, FIFA career mode players and Football Manager players will know who I'm on about here. The Greek wonder kid that they signed as well, and I think they paid good money for him.
I think I bought Norwich Albion on Football Manager.
Norwich have got a good side. They have got good individual players. It's just I don't think Daniel Farke, who should have lost that job 18 months before he actually did, couldn't get them playing. And I think where you are in the league and at the period of time, it is like you mentioned, Jack. It's almost like Mission Impossible. I mean, It's like if you can get them group of players to play football. I mean, to be honest, again, biased, and I'm going on about Newcastle. Had Newcastle had 11 men in that game, I think we would have walked it. But we went down to 10.
Yeah,
that we didn't. And we should have seen the game out, to be honest, because we were a much better team than them with 10 men.
I think Dean's a hell of a coup though for Norwich.
Yeah, yes. I was very worried. I think Lampard kind of was. I think Lampard's desperate to get back into the game. I don't think he would deny that. I mean, I would quite like to see Frank get back involved with football. He worked wonders with that Derby side. But
yeah, touching on that, I reckon Lampard's holding out for a championship team because or it might have been too soon for him to take over at Chelsea.
It was far too soon. Far too soon for him to take over at Chelsea. I mean, he got Derby to playoff semi-final playoff final where they knocked Leeds out, didn't they? And then Villa.
They knocked Leeds out. Yeah. Same time Villa knocked us out, but we won't mention that. But I reckon Lampard's holding out for a championship club, to be honest. I mean, there's quite a few managers that.
Do you think Forest would have been the job for him? Because that job did come available. Do you think that would have been?
Forest are a decent team. They've just had a few bad results, but I reckon Forest would have been good. But again, Forest, Derby, local rivals. It might have been a bit awkward. Might have been a bit awkward.
Well, if Everton bring in Rafa
Benitez,
Look, lads, we've went on all night. It's been nearly an hour and 25, so we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. See, I'm forgetting how and I need to go to bed. Thank you very much for everyone that's tuned in tonight. I know it's been a long one, but we enjoy having you all watching. We'll be back same time next week, Tuesday, 8:00. Thank you very much for everyone joining again. I don't know. I'm just tired. I'm repeating myself. Night, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.